This is the McKinsey Podcast, where we help you make sense out of our world's toughest business challenges.
Welcome to the show. I'm Lucia Rahili.
And I'm Roberta Fasaro. Hello, Lucia.
Hello, Roberta.
You know, I was just reading about agentic AI. The very idea of an AI system that has agency or the ability to make decisions without human intervention is kind of blowing my mind.
I know, it's totally mind-blowing. I bet you were reading our recently published article, AI for IT Modernization.
I was. It turns out that many Fortune 500 companies have antiquated software systems, like they're 20 years old or more. And without modernizing these systems, companies can't use cutting-edge technologies like agentic AI and others. There's a big risk that they'll be left behind.
It's a brand new world. Actually, truly, especially when it comes to geopolitical upheaval. It's on the mind of so many global leaders these days, and we've just published an article called A Proactive Approach to Navigating Geopolitics is Essential to Thrive.
Yeah, it's a great piece that talks about how businesses must seek and seize opportunity in the face of geopolitical disruption. Both of the articles that we just mentioned are, of course, online and in our show notes.
It's been a year, hasn't it? It's like before Gen AI and after Gen AI.
Yes, it seemed like in an instant, the world of business was transformed.
On the McKinsey Podcast this year, senior partner Lorraine Yee had some really interesting things to say about how to build and use AI responsibly.
How we think about responsible AI isn't a moment. It's actually embedded in the way in which we develop our business plans, in the way in which we build, configure, and test the solutions, and the way in which we implement it and continue to get feedback, and the way we have strong compliance on the back end if there was a mistake made.
And digital leader Eric Lamar, a co-author of Rewired, said businesses should be ready to scale AI systems thoughtfully.
We are now entering the phase of how do we build organizations that can scale digital and AI innovation across all of their processes. And so it's going to be the next 10 years is the years of product and platform operating model that allows many agile teams to innovate in a way that is coherent.
And who will lead the way through this type of innovation? The CEO, of course. Senior partner Liz Hilton-Siegel says that leaders have to get onto that front foot to stay competitive.
Most businesses are being disrupted in some form today. And as an organization, if you're not clear on how you're building new muscles to compete differently, odds are you're going to be left behind.
Competing differently could include CEOs leaning on their CMOs to help craft strategy. McKinsey partner Robert Tass says in 2024, that wasn't happening often enough.
One of the troubling things that we saw is that the CMOs are being more moved to being executors of the strategy than helping create the strategy. But where we see it work really well, they're at that table doing both. And they have a voice in it. They have a voice in shaping the strategy.
Shaping strategy is just one of the many responsibilities CEOs have. Senior partner Andrew Goodman says to avoid feeling overwhelmed, many CEOs turn to their chief of staff to help organize their priorities.
This idea of 2 or 3 that were your tuxedo agenda, the outward-facing priorities that you had, and 2 or 3 that were your pajama agenda, things that were inward-facing and really around how the company or organization works. And I really like that idea as a way of thinking about priorities.
In 2024, we talked a lot about talent. Senior partner Kate Smage said that your people are really the key to innovating with technology.
The organizations that are able to get some form of human breakthrough, not just the technology breakthrough, tend to be those that are moving ahead faster, really thinking strategically about future of work and what roles and so on we need the human to do when that organization is fully tech-enabled.
And as we look ahead to a much more tech-enabled future of work, what matters most to talent, especially Gen AI talent? Senior partner Aaron DeSmet says it's the soft stuff.
Some of the factors that make the biggest difference are having caring leaders, meaningful work, flexible work, and feeling a sense of inclusivity and belonging. And frankly, talent broadly, in terms of what matters, is feeling valued by my leaders and by my organization.
Feeling valued sounds pretty good to me. A big part of that for many is feeling included at work. Senior partner Alexis Krivkovich says diversity should be on every CEO's to-do list.
Let me give you one example every single leader can do. Get out a piece of paper, write down the list of the people you think you're sponsoring and mentoring, and then grade yourself on how diverse that list is. And many leaders will find that list is not balanced. It's more reflective of their own journey and people they think they can most naturally coach and support.
And let's be real, most leaders are men. There's still work to do. Senior partner Lorena Yee says the research shows women are at the ready.
So women may pause a beat to let someone else express their view. They may pause a beat in politeness to let someone else raise their hand. That doesn't mean their hand isn't raised because actually you weren't looking. Their hand was up the whole time.
Speaking of hands, we need a lot of them. When it comes to global productivity, senior partner Olivia White says we need as many people as possible working as efficiently as possible because the global population is aging.
And that means most parts of the world are going to have what's a higher dependency ratio going forward. And to support such a society, everybody working had better be generating more output per unit of labor because they have to be able to cover everybody.
So I suppose it makes sense that with an aging population, wellness is on many consumers' minds. In fact, the demand for wellness products is rising. McKinsey's latest research says wellness is a $1.8 trillion industry worldwide. And McKinsey partner Anna Pioni noted that compared to 2020, consumer priorities have changed.
What we were really surprised by when we first did the research back in 2020 is that clean and natural was actually beating out clinical in many subcategories. And in the more recent research, we saw moving much more towards clinical, effective, science-backed being the most important priorities that consumers have.
Senior partner Sajal Kohli agrees and says companies must study all the incredible data they have to understand exactly what consumers want.
I think retailers and consumer product companies should not forget that they've had this long-standing relationship with their consumers, and the consumers have told these companies a lot about themselves. The question is, can you harness that to actually tailor your offerings and engaging with these consumers in a different way?
In addition to understanding the changing taste of consumers, at McKinsey at least, 2024 saw a real focus on decarbonization. Here's senior partner Mark Patel talking about an approach to removing carbon called enhanced rock weathering.
The principle in enhanced rock weathering is that when you spread rocks on soil, rocks generally in the form of dust or very small rocks, they weather naturally, and in doing so have the effect of storing carbon, which then naturally gets washed out through the soil. The application of spreading rocks or rock dust onto soil for fertilizing purposes is centuries old, but most folks didn't naturally attribute it to large volume removal of CO2. Now, there are a number of companies that are embracing that and pursuing it.
Carbon was certainly top of mind at this year's UN Climate Change Conference, or COP, where attendees reached an agreement on carbon markets. McKinsey partner Alexis Tritipo says climate change needs to be a focus heading into 2025.
There's a real recognition that we both need to do adaptation and mitigation at the same time at this COP, and that's a really important message for us to take forward. We've seen flooding in Brazil, in Spain, in Germany. We've seen 2 hurricanes off the coast of Florida, for example, that had major impacts. We've got real talk about it. How do we build it better infrastructure? How do we change behavior? How do we monitor and better understand what's going to come?
Predicting the future is something inventor and author Ray Kurzweil is known for. His new book, The Singularity is Nearer, had a big impact on senior partner Yuval Atzman, who chose it for McKinsey's 2024 book recommendations.
I was a big fan of Ray's previous work. 20 years ago, he wrote the book Singularity is Near. And as you can imagine, the new book talks a lot about what has changed over the last 20 years. And what I found encouraging in the book and exciting is Ray continued to be tremendously optimistic and excited about all the things that technology will enable us to do, and continues to remind us the incredible power of exponential evolution of technology when even things that we think are still quite far away, with doubling every year or two in capabilities, can actually be 1,000 times better within a decade or two, and 1,000,000 times better within 2 or 3 decades. And as all those things are happening, we're going to see things that at the moment we can't even imagine. And Kurzweil is one of those people that can imagine some of those things. So the subtitles of the book actually talks about us merging with AI or with technology, something that feels very science fiction, like our ability to upload ourselves to different forms and in a way operate in one space with everything that we think is us and all the cyber capabilities that are available on a cloud or otherwise. And that it could actually happen within some cases our lifetime, or at least the lifetime of our children. I don't know that everything in the book persuaded me. And I think that on the path to the most exciting vision, there's still a lot of challenge that we need to surpass collectively as a society. But I find it incredibly powerful to go through some of those books that have that power of imagination, which is based on real scientific capabilities. And Ray has a pretty tremendous track record of having made good prediction over the last 50 years.
Senior partner Quaylen Ailingrud recommends the book Tribal Leadership, Leveraging Natural Groups to Build a Thriving Organization by Dave Logan, John King, and Haley Fisher-Wright.
What I really enjoyed about the book was it was a great combination of deep research and database insights, as well as stories about specific companies and leaders and cultures. Some of the key insights that struck me most about the book are that a tribe or a team is a group of 20 to 150 people who know each other well. Small companies are made up of a single tribe usually, and large companies have different groups of tribes or tribes of tribes. What makes some tribes or teams more effective than others is all about culture. And the language and behavior used within that culture matters a great deal, and that's what actually helps tribes or teams operate more effectively. The book defines 5 stages of how tribes operate, 5 levels of effectiveness. Level 1 is less effective than level 2, etc. Level 1 is described or defined as despair. It would be where people are either thinking or saying, life sucks. Level 2 is more victim-oriented, and people may be thinking, my life sucks. Level 3 is more a lone warrior, with people thinking, I'm great, but you're not. And level 4 feels like a great team. Things are working well, and people may be thinking, we are great, and they are not. There is a bit of an other there. Level 5 is defined as wonderment, where people are thinking, life is great. Most organizations never achieve level 5, or frankly, even level 4. I would highly recommend the book Tribal Leadership.
Senior partner Sven Smith has not 1, but 2 recommended books this year.
The first one is Ghost Debris by Scott Adams, the author of the Dilbert comic. The book, however, is not comical at all. It discusses many angles of the meaning of life, ranging from people who think that we live in a simulation, or we live in the aftermath of God, or we live still under God in various ways. It's a conversation that I followed in many different ways, whether it's Gödel, Escher, Bach, and other forms of philosophy and science combinations. And I love many angles to this and appreciated this particular one as well. The second book is called Lifespan and discusses the idea that we might live much longer because we start to find the keys to aging and also how to turn the keys to our advantage. It does give me the feeling of optimism that maybe my young daughter will make it to 150 with a reasonable probability, while that's probably not for me in the cards. But if you look at that, it's a nice spectrum from the meaning of life to the duration of life. Happy reading to you all.
Yes, happy reading to you all. Our show notes include a link to our 2024 book recommendations. There's a wide range of suggestions for all sorts of tastes.
And a very happy holidays to you from all of us at the McKinsey Podcast. Be well and see you in the new year.
Thanks so much for listening to the McKinsey Podcast. I'm Lucia Rahili.
And I'm Roberta Fasaro.
Find us on McKinsey.com. We'll have a transcript of this episode up shortly.
And download the McKinsey Insights app, where you can find this podcast and other helpful content updated daily.
If you enjoyed the show, we'd love for you to leave a rating and a review.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.